Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari returns to Abuja ahead of APC presidential primary. Power Minister advises African countries on renewable energy. Plus, APC disqualifies 10 presidential aspirants. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First, in our news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari has arrived Abuja from Madrid, the Spanish capital, after his official state visit, ahead of the presidential primary of the All Progressives Congress. He was received at the presidential wing of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport by the FCT Minister Mohammed Bello and the Director General of the State Security Service Yusuf Bichi, among others. During his two-day state visit, President Buhari signed at least 9 memoranda of understanding with the Spanish government. They include the Treaty on Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters, transfer of sentenced persons, extradition, economic and commercial cooperation, and terrorism. Others were on sports, health, the fight against COVID-19, and science and innovation. In a meeting with his Spanish counterpart, President Pedro Sanchez, the Nigerian leader said his country looked forward to increasing bilateral relations between both nations. Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on the occasion of her Platinum Jubilee. The head of the Commonwealth of Nations marked her 70th birth year amid celebrations in the United Kingdom. In his message, the president hailed her milestones, including being the youngest ever on the throne and handling her role with grace. He noted that the Queen was the first British monarch to reach 7 decades on the throne and described her as a loyal, patriotic, and compassionate leader who works for the people as a friend and compatriot. In the meantime, President Buhari has signed into law the new appropriation bill recently passed into law by the National Assembly. Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, House of Representatives Umar El Yaqub, confirmed this to newsmen. El Yaqub said the new law repeals the appropriation law passed by the lawmakers in December 2021. Still on the presidency, President Buhari has urged European countries to look to Africa for the solution to the resources supply challenges currently facing the global economy. He spoke at a political and business leaders forum jointly organized by the Spanish Chamber of Commerce, the Ministry of Trade, and the Confederation of Employers in Madrid, the Spanish capital. The president told the forum that by reaching out to African countries, especially Nigeria, which is the largest economy on the continent, Europe would be solving both its current and future economic challenges, while both continents would be improving their mutual economies. According to President Buhari, Nigeria, which has been the focus of foreign economic partners for petroleum resources, is also rich in many other sectors like agriculture, healthcare, and light manufacturing with larger consumer market. Away from that, President Buhari has sent a message to his classmate at the military training school in 1962, Juventus Chijioke Ojukwu, as he turns 80. In the message signed by his spokesman, Garba Shehu, the president recalled the grueling drills and trainings with the then cadet officer in training and how they eventually got commissioned as officers of the Nigerian Army. President Buhari saluted 60 years of relationship with Ojukwu, who is also a former House of Representatives member representing Idemili Federal Constituency in the Second Republic. The president wished him longer days in good health and greater service to God and humanity. In another development, the federal government says the power sector is on a fast track to delivering service to Nigerians and has urged stakeholders to work together to achieve the feat. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, stated this in Abuja while inaugurating the new governing board of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Aliyu called on the members of the board to speak and act with one voice, as the power sector was on track to quicken the delivery of service to Nigerians. According to him, the electricity that is being delivered is not at the level to support the economy and the population, necessitating efforts to step up the output. Meanwhile, Minister of Power Abubakar Aliyu has advised African countries to develop renewable energy opportunities to avoid being left behind. Aliyu gave the advice at the end of the three-day Nigeria-Africa Natural Resources and Energy Investment Summit in Abuja. He said African countries should put strategies and plans in place to develop their renewable energy as the world was gradually moving towards less dependence on fossil fuels. The minister said some countries that had abundant water resources, sunlight, and wind should begin to embrace technologies that would enhance capabilities for commercial purposes. Away from that, the National Population Commission is assuring Nigerians of an all-inclusive census, insisting that everyone within the boundaries of the country will be enumerated during the 2023 Population and Housing Census. Chairman of the Commission, Nasser Isa Kwara, stated this while declaring open a workshop on a special population survey in Mararaba, Nasarawa State. Kwara said the population of homeless households, homeless persons, nomadic households, transient persons, migrant fishermen, migrant farmers, mobile hunters and refugees, or internally displaced persons would be counted by the staff of the Commission during the census. In a separate development, Nigerian Communications Commission has tasked telecom consumers and the host communities to protect telecom infrastructure in their domain for improved service delivery. The Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of NCC, Umar Dambata, made the appeal at the second edition of the Village Square Dialogue, which is one of the Commission's consumer outreach programs. He solicited the support of telecoms consumers to complement the Commission's efforts at ensuring improved telecom service delivery in their communities. Dambata said it was important for communities to allow installations of equipment and maintenance or repairs on sites by technical staff of service providers. To the judiciary now, where Justice Inyako of the Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed August 29 for judgment in a suit seeking to extradite the embattled suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, to the United States of America for trial over alleged internet fraud. The judge fixed the date after taking arguments for and against the suit by parties involved. Recall that Kyari, whose arguments were presented by Nureni Jimo, had asked the court to refuse the extradition request on the ground that he committed no offense to warrant the federal government sending him to America for trial. He informed the court that more than a year before his arrest, he had written the Attorney General of the Federation and Inspector General of Police notifying them that he had opened a channel of communication with a suspected internet fraudster Raman Abbas, popularly known as Hush Puppy. In the two letters tendered in court, Kyari explained that the purpose was to give confidence to the suspected fraudster and lure him to come to Nigeria, where an ambush was laid for a sting operation by his own strike force. He further told the court that the wire fraud charge brought against him by the American government was not known as an offense under the Extradition Act and should therefore not be allowed by the court to be used to extradite him. Still on the judiciary, a high court of the Federal Capital Territory in Wuse has remanded Peter Nwachukwu, husband of the late gospel singer Osinachi, at the Kuje Correctional Facility, pending the hearing and determination of the homicide-related suit instituted against him by the Attorney General of the Federation. Justice N.K. Nwosuiheme gave the order after Nwachukwu pleaded not guilty to 23 counts bordering on domestic violence and homicide, among others. The judge ordered that the suspect be remanded at the correctional facility, while trial was adjourned to June 16 and 17. It could be recalled that Nwachukwu's wife died on April 8, and many of her colleagues accused her husband of subjecting the deceased to domestic violence, leading to her death. On education, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has expressed optimism about its ongoing meeting with the Nimi-Briggs Committee, describing the negotiation as progressive. Speaking in an interview with newsmen, ASU National President Emmanuel Osodeke said the union had been negotiating with the Briggs Committee since last week over its demands. Recall that ASU commenced its ongoing strike on February 14 after the federal government failed to meet some of its demands, including the release of revitalization funds for universities, renegotiation of the 2009 FGN ASU agreement, release of earned allowances for university lecturers, and deployment of the University Transparency and Accountability Solution. Meanwhile, in a statement via the Minister for Education, Adamu, the ministry said it had received the reports of the 21 white paper drafting panels, which were constituted in March 2022 for tertiary institutions across the country. In politics, ahead of the presidential primary of the All Progressives Congress scheduled to take place between June 6 and 8, the ruling party has disqualified 10 presidential aspirants. The chairman of the Presidential Screening Committee and former national chairman of APC, John Oyegun, confirmed this in Abuja when he submitted the committee's report to the party. The aspirants who were disqualified have not been named yet. In a related development, the Screening Committee of the All Progressives Congress has denied screening former President Goodluck Jonathan. The chairman of the Screening Committee, John Odigio Yegun, confirmed this today when he submitted his report to the APC national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, at an ongoing meeting of the National Working Committee. Odigio Yegun told journalists that, contrary to news making the rounds, the former president was not part of the exercise. Still in politics, former national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, ABGA, Senator Victor Ome, has dumped the party for the Labour Party. He clinched the party's ticket for the Nambra Central senatorial seat for the 2023 general elections after participating in Labour's primary election. Ome will battle Senator Uche Ekunife of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Abga's Dozie Nwankwo, and Chief Kodilichukwu Okelekwe of the All Progressives Congress in the main election next year. In the run-up to the 2023 polls, the Independent National Electoral Commission has announced the release of its regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections. The Commission announced this on its official Twitter page. The 37-page document contains 106 guidelines and regulations for elections, as well as health measures during conduct of elections. In Article 30 of the guidelines, the Commission stated that telephones and electronic devices capable of taking pictures were not allowed in polling booths. In Benue State, Governor Samuel Otom has reiterated his call for complete autonomy for the judiciary to enable that arm of government dispassionately uphold the rule of law. Governor Otom made the call in Makurdi during the swearing-in ceremony of 3 newly appointed High Court judges in the state judiciary. The governor further recommended that all entitlements due to the judiciary should be deducted at source from the Federation accounts and remitted directly to the heads of courts for onward payment to judicial staff. He noted that at a time when the government and the public were calling for quick dispensation of justice, the judiciary should live up to its responsibility, as democracy cannot thrive without adherence to the rule of law. Elsewhere, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has ordered owners of empty plots of land providing cover for criminal elements to begin the development of their property or have their permits revoked. The threats are sequel to efforts to rid Upper district of criminals allegedly being harbored at the scrap market. Senior Special Assistant to FCT Minister on Monitoring, Inspection and Enforcement, Ikaro Atta, who led the team to continue with the demolition, advised owners of unoccupied plots to go to the Department of Development Control to seek permits. He, however, warned that the administration would have no option but to revoke the titles to the plots if the owners failed to take over the reclaimed lands. Still to come in the news. CBN asks bank customers to produce indemnity for online transfers above 1 million naira. Do stay with us.
A knowledge of global businesses, economic activities, a new wave of the stock market, forex market, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs creates new dynamics towards emerging market millionaires and billionaires. From the dot-com era to the oil booms, the fundamental news drives the market. This is Business 360, taking you to the business around the globe. Join us from 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. weekdays, exclusive on Spectrum Television. Business 360, your prism to world businesses.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court, my lord.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll being in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Politics is a game. It is about delivering dividends of democracy. For this, accountability is key. So we listen, we follow up on the promise, and we track the progress. Watch Political Spectrum weekdays, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Elections in Nigeria is characterized by fraud.
It is not pure election.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now in Africa, Senegal's president and head of the African Union, Macky Sall, has told his Russian counterpart to consider the impact that food shortages caused by the Ukraine conflict are having on the continent. Sall made the call when the two men met in the southern Russian city of Sochi. He asked Putin to become aware that African countries, even if they were far from the theater of action, were victims on an economic level of the conflict. He added that food supplies should be outside of the West's sanctions on Russia. Prior to the conflict, more than 40% of wheat consumed in Africa came from either Ukraine or Russia. In his reply after the meeting, Putin said Russia was always on Africa's side. Meanwhile, Chad has declared a food emergency in the country. A decree signed by the chief of the military transition, Mohamed Idris Deby, calls on all national and international partners to help the population. It cited a constant deterioration of the food and nutritional situation and growing risk of food scarcity if no assistance was given to the Sahelian nation. Meanwhile, the United Nations estimated last year that 5.5 million Chadians, or more than a third of the population, were in need of urgent humanitarian aid. The situation has only worsened following the war in Ukraine. On a foreign scene, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan today joined the royal family for their first public appearance in Britain in 2 years at a Platinum Jubilee service for Queen Elizabeth II's record-breaking 70 years on the throne. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, as they are formerly known, arrived mostly to cheers from the crowd outside St. Paul's Cathedral. The 37-year-old former British Army Captain Harry was dressed in a morning suit, complete with military medals, while 40-year-old Meghan was in an off-white dress and marching hat. They took their seats inside among the 2,000-strong congregation for the Church of England service, which ended with trumpet fanfares and the national anthem, God Save the Queen, plus a rare reel of the country's biggest bell, Great Paul. To the United States now, where President Joe Biden has called on lawmakers to pass legislation to curb gun violence in the country, 1 week after 19 children were shot dead by a gunman in their school. Biden made the call in an emotional speech broadcast live on national television. He proposed several laws, including a ban on assault weapons, which was allowed to lapse under a Republican administration in 2004. Other proposals included a limit on high-capacity magazines, secure storage laws, red flag laws, universal background checks, and the removal of protection laws for gun manufacturers. Still on the foreign scene, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which began on February 24, is raging on into its 100th day. According to Ukraine's President Zelensky, Moscow's forces are now in control of 20% of Ukrainian territory, and Russia's army is trying to break Ukraine's defense in the eastern region from all directions. Fighting is raging in the key city of Severodonetsk, which is now largely under the control of Russian troops. Taking Severodonetsk would mean Russia controls almost all of Luhansk, which is part of Moscow's bid to capture the wider Donbass. Meanwhile, Russia's foreign ministry will summon the heads of US media outlets in Moscow to a meeting next Monday to notify them of tough measures in response to US restrictions against Russian media. The ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova warned that if the work of the Russian media operators and journalists was not normalized in the US, the measures would inevitably follow. She said the heads of the Moscow offices of all American media will be invited to the press center of the Russian Foreign Ministry to explain the consequences of their government's allegedly hostile line in the media sphere. It could be recalled that Russian lawmakers had passed a bill last month giving prosecutors powers to shut foreign media bureaus in Moscow if a Western country has been deemed unfriendly to the Russian media. In a related development, the European Union has sanctioned Alina Kabeva, a former Russian member of parliament and reported girlfriend of President Vladimir Putin, in a new tranche of measures. The Russian president has explicitly denied having a relationship with the former Olympic gymnast. The EU said Kabeva was a chairwoman for a media group that owns large stakes in organizations that reproduce the Russian government propaganda. In the meantime, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says Western countries need to prepare for the long haul. Speaking to reporters after meeting US President Joe Biden at the White House, Stoltenberg said NATO had to continue to support Ukraine in what he said was becoming a long and sustained conflict. Stoltenberg observed that the war had become a war of attrition, where the Ukrainians are paying a high price for defending their own country on the battlefield, but also where Russia is taking high casualties. He said it was important to continue to help and support Ukraine to enable it achieve the best possible outcome of the conflict. Still on developments from the war, United Nations is planning to send 3 human rights experts to Ukraine later this month to investigate alleged violations and abuses. The commissioners, who are members of the UN's Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine, will visit several locations, including the cities of Lviv, Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Sumy, from June 7 to 16. In a statement, the UN said they will meet victims, witnesses, and people who have been displaced, as well as government officials. In a related development, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres have discussed exporting grain from the territory of Ukraine over the phone. Lukashenko said Belarus was ready to supply Ukrainian grain to the Baltic ports through its territory. Guterres asked for a short break of a few days to talk with the leadership of the countries concerned and determine the conditions for the supply of Ukrainian grain to international markets through Belarus. Away from that, Pakistani Taliban has announced an indefinite ceasefire with Pakistan's government after talks brokered by the Afghan Taliban government. The Pakistani Taliban said substantial progress had been made at the talks in Kabul, and the truce extended until further notice. The Pakistani government official said the talks were moving in a positive direction. Reports say the Taliban has been fighting Pakistan's armed forces for years and wants to impose its own ultra-hardline interpretation of Sharia law in Pakistani regions along the border with Afghanistan. Now, business news. Discharged bankers under the aegis of the Association of Ex-Staff of Non-Consolidated Banks of Nigeria have given the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation an ultimatum to pay their 5.7 billion naira benefits. The chairman of the association, Magnus Maduka, issued the ultimatum on behalf of the members during a televised interview. About 2 weeks after they won in court, he said the judge had given the agencies 3 months to pay up, which delay would begin to attract 10% interest on the sum. Still in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria has ordered banks and payment service providers to accept indemnity from customers for highly secured online funds transfers. It stated this in a circular signed by the Director, Payment System Management Department, Musa Jimo. It said banks were required to accept indemnity from customers for highly secured online funds transfer above 1 million naira for individuals and 10 million naira for corporate, subject to a maximum of 25 million naira for individuals and 250 million naira for corporate entities. It also noted that banks were to provide customers with the option of electronic or paper indemnity, implement electronic indemnity with stricter controls requiring biometric verification of identity, as well as adhere to multiple-factor authentication for highly secured online funds transfer. Meanwhile, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, has elected its 58th president, Tijani Issa. His investiture took place in Lagos and was witnessed by the governors of Lagos and Jigawa states, the Minister of Education Adamu Adamu, sister professional bodies, the academic community, and other relevant stakeholders. In his acceptance speech, the new ICAN president promised to hold dear the position of trust and responsibility reposed in him by his professional colleagues, with a commitment to live the ICAN ideal of integrity, professionalism, and defending public interests. Now, still to come in the news. UEFA apologizes to Liverpool and Real Madrid fans. Do stay with us. Hey, thanks for staying tuned. Now in health, a physician with the Accident and Emergency Department's Federal Medical Center Abuja, Dr. Arome Adejo, has decried the lack of equipment to treat accident victims, especially those in critical condition in tertiary hospitals in the country. Dr. Adejo, who stated this during an interview with journalists, said the lack of CT scans and a shortage of blood at the blood banks led to avoidable deaths of accident victims. Recall that the World Health Organization states that road traffic accidents cost low and middle income countries between 1 and 2% of their gross national product annually, more than the development aid the countries receive. Still in health, Morocco's national regulatory agency overseeing the use of cannabis for medical use has met for the first time in one of the last steps before legalization in the world's top cannabis resin producer. The North African nation had adopted a law in 2021 provisionally authorizing the legal uses of cannabis for medical, cosmetic, and industrial purposes, and tasked a national agency to oversee the process. Chaired by Interior Minister Abdel Louafi Laftit, the National Agency for the Regulation of Cannabis Activities approved its organization chart and budget for the year 2022. This will be responsible for controlling all stages of the production chain, from the import of seeds to the marketing of cannabis products, as well as overseeing licensing procedures for national and international operators in the legal cannabis industry. Moving now to Latvia, where the first case of monkeypox has been confirmed. The government's Center for Disease Prevention and Control made this known in a statement. The agency said the patient, who was under 50 years of age, was infected abroad. Now in sports, UEFA has apologized to Liverpool and Real Madrid fans caught up in events around the Champions League final and said it would not happen again. Liverpool fans described heavy-handed policing, organizational chaos, and overcrowding at last Saturday's showpiece game. Real Madrid had asked for answers on what they termed the series of unfortunate events. The UEFA statement acknowledged that no football fan should be put in that situation and promised that there would not be a recurrence. French President Emmanuel Macron asked that ticket holders who were blocked from entering the stadium by security staff be reimbursed as fast as possible. Still in sports, Manchester United forward Cristiano Ronaldo has voiced his opinion on the current state of affairs at the club with the appointment of former Ajax coach Erik ten Hag. United completed what was reportedly their worst season in Premier League history, barely finishing 6th with 58 points after a slip by the Hammers and 35 points behind league-winning City. There were also reports of tension and infighting with several players angered by former interim coach Ragnick's outspoken comments in news conferences. It was also reported that some of the squad were not happy with Maguire as captain. In the meantime, Rafael Nadal has reached his 14th French Open final today, when Alexander Zverev was forced to quit the semi-final after suffering a sickening right ankle injury. Zverev had to leave the court in a wheelchair after turning his ankle as he chased down the ball in front of the players' boxes on court Philippe Chatrier, where his team and family were seating. Reports say the German was trailing 7-6, 6-6 after more than 3 hours of play at the time of the injury. And on our entertainment news, Colombian singer Shakira and her long-term partner and Barcelona defender Gerard Piqué are set to release a statement about their future after allegations of cheating in their relationship. The entertainment industry and football world has been rocked by claims that the pair are on the verge of splitting up after Piqué was allegedly caught in bed with another woman. According to Spanish publication, which is claimed as the source of the story, the woman who could have put Piqué and Shakira on the brink of breaking up is a young blonde in her 20s who works as an events hostess. The report added that the under-pressure couple will soon make a statement on the situation. Still on entertainment, authorities in Malawi have stopped South African celebrity Zodwa Wabantu from coming into the country to perform. The Malawian government said the move was because Wabantu's revealing dance moves were thought to be out of tune with Malawi's moral standards. The South African entertainer has reportedly made a career from explicit dancing styles, which include wearing revealing clothes and often going on stage without any underwear. She was set to perform in the southern city of Blantyre on June 11, but the show's organizers say they have received communication from the country's censorship board that the South African will not be allowed to enter the country. Malawi's Tourism and Culture Minister Michael Lucy told a local newspaper that he backed the decision. And finally, on the news, Nollywood actor Yul Edochie has given his reasons for marrying a second wife despite his first marriage of 17 years with May Yul Edochie. The actor shared a video via his Facebook page today where he talked about the reason behind the choice to marry his colleague. Edochie said despite popular opinion, he should not have allowed another woman into his life after his first marriage. He added that he was unable to end his relationship with his second wife because she had made an impact on his life. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert. You have a terrific weekend.